Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds in 2005. So yes, here we are back again with a Spielberg review, and this time for War of the Worlds, the remake of course, with Tom Cruise, and yeah, 2005. This film is very, very controversial, and yeah, it's generally not that popular really, of course, but it's a remake, and of course Steven Spielberg directs. I have been reviewing quite a few of his films, of course, 6 already so far, and I do plan to pretty much this year, review all of these films. Recently purchased Ready Player One, so I'm picking more and more up. And then I'll be reviewing pretty much all of these films, as I say, this year, and then doing a ranking. But this film, yeah, very, very different from what I've reviewed so far, because I do think they're all masterpieces, the ones that I've talked about. And yeah, this one, of course, I'll say it now, it's not a masterpiece for me, but yes, this is very, very controversial, this film, and it's one of his 21st century films. Again, I haven't been talking about these ones. I do. If someone asks me, I think Spielberg, is a great director. Making some great films, of the 21st century. However, nowhere near as good, in my opinion, as his 20th century work. He was at his peak really from Jaws, of course, all the way really to. Yeah, to Saving Private Ryan, I would say, because after that, there's a lot of kind of more up and down, and just not as not as ones that I love as much personally. Of course, he did stray away from kind of more of his kind of feel good blockbusters, you could say. A lot more darker films, more kind of historical pieces, more dramas, and he's going into animation as well. So yeah, this film is one of the most unpopular ones. A lot of people hate this film. There are people that defend it, including me. I actually personally love this film, and I think it's great. I do think there are some flaws, of course. We'll get to them, but yeah, I've kind of when it first came out on DVD and stuff, I got this. Now I've got it on Blu-ray, of course, but I watched it quite a lot on DVD, and yeah, just it was such an addictive film, especially the first hour. That's for me the best. Consistently the best parts of the film. The first hour is wow, very, very few flaws for me. I absolutely love this, and I do think it's a great film overall, although it does have more flaws in the second half, including the Tim Robbins character. Just really bizarre there. But yes, this film, of course, it's a different kind of retelling of this. In this film, Spielberg kind of thought of these tripods, they come up from underground. Very, very different to how things panned out, before with the versions of these films, I believe, and it's very, very unique. It's kind of course, a fantasy sci-fi, but it's done in a kind of a different way, a very unique kind of blend. This kind of realistic in the way it's done, but fantastical and very, very particular ways. It's hard to describe, but yes, of course, as I say, it's very, very unpopular, but I do love the film, and yeah, Tom Cruise is one of my favourite actors, and of course he plays Ray Ferrier, and yeah, he's basically an American dock worker. You see how interesting that is, in the first sort of few minutes, and then he's done, and it's the weekend, and his kids are getting brought over, and of course he's divorced, of course, from Miranda, Otto's character, and yeah, Mary Ann, I believe it is, and she leaves the kids with him for the weekend because they're going away, and yeah, to Boston, and the rest of the film is the kind of survival, sci-fi thriller, of course, with these aliens, and of course this family, these three main characters of Rachel, of course, played by Dakota, and she is absolutely brilliant in the film. Then you've got Justin Chatwin, who plays Robbie. I actually think he's a good character. I do believe a lot of people hate this character, and he's been named as one of the worst characters in film. I think that's way too far. I do. I can understand how people find him annoying. I just found him really, entertaining. I really liked the relationship between him and Tom Cruise, of course, in the film. And yeah, Ray is a great protagonist, and it's great that he's got, it shows his kind of dynamics and personality through his kids, of course, and the way he's kind of tasked to look after them, throughout this sci-fi, alien invasion. And yeah, I think Justin Chatwin, actually, I do like the performance. It's not perfect, and I think the other two main performances are better, of course. But I do really like his his character up until a point. It kind of goes a bit astray. We'll get to that, but yes, this first act, of course, when they're in the house and in the town and stuff. And just, the way it kind of creates this family drama, this is absolutely brilliant in my opinion. I think there's very, very few flaws in the first hour, as I say, and just so amazing. It kind of perfectly sets this up. It's very, very peaceful, this film, at first. I love this, I love the kind of the setting, and also just the way it involves you, in the family drama, melodrama, of course, as well. It's just really investing so much. I absolutely adore this. It's just, I always loved watching this, of course. And I loved especially the first hour, but the bits in the house and stuff. And you've got this very, very tranquil, and you could say low key kind of build up, and then you've got the aliens, of course. The lightning strikes. No thunder, of course, and the mystery begins. And I think once this happens, this is perfectly built up, in my opinion. This whole kind of alien invasion, the way, of course, the storm breaks out, and they go into the gardens and stuff. It's really, really great. Perfect kind of suspense, mystery building here by Spielberg, and the visual storytelling is great. Really something else. There are some slight issues in the cinematography in the first scenes. It's a bit weird, the kind of glare it has and stuff, and very, very odd look at times. But I found this in AI as well, and some of his more recent ones, some of the cinematography, it is, it's not, something I love all the time, but it's just in these first scenes, which was very weird. The rest of the film is shot wonderfully, in my opinion. The editing is great, but yes, Ray, of course, goes into the town, and this film does have some campy elements, of course. It does feel like a kind of a B film adventure, of course, at times. But I think that kind of works for the comedy really, really well. You have I think one of the characters is neighbour, and this other guy just appears on the skateboard, and apparently knows them, both of them, and they're talking. I just love this kind of bit where they come in and he's running down to see what's happened, the storm. I was always looking out for these characters when I watched this, of course, where they go, because it never really they just kind of disappear, and it's really quite hilarious as well. There is a policeman, in the film, it's a really bad line. The way it's said, there's something down there, and it's moving. It's just moments like this. It's really, really campy and kind of just enjoyable, but kind of a bit laughable at times. But yeah, it's really the only flaws early on. And again, it does add to the charm of the film. Some definite moments that are a bit kind of cheesy and stuff, but yes, most of this first hour, as I say, is so good. I love how the tripods come out of the ground, and of course you learn that these aliens were sent down through this lightning storm to then pilot these these machines that have been under the ground. This is genius. I just love this whole kind of concept, and the way it's executed, the way it's built up, of course, and then the explosive, massive set piece in the first act is absolutely stunning. This is some of the best stuff of the film. Is really so great, and the actual scenes, of course, where Tom Cruise is running, as always, and just running from this, and people getting disintegrated. It's just something else. Yes, you can say it's very unrealistic, but that doesn't matter to me, because of course, it's just so thrilling, and the way when he runs through, and all the tracking shots in this film are great, and even just the sound design, the visual effects in this film are something else. I really love the visual effects. Just great stuff. The machines themselves, great designs, of course, and just the whole kind of the sound design to them, the noises and stuff of the machines. It's just so great. The sense of wonder is kind of pretty much perfectly portrayed in this first hour of the film, involving the machines in particular. I think the way you just see them in a distance at times just adds so much to the film. It's such a sense of wonder. You could have had these machines kind of constantly at first, coming right up close to these characters and stuff, and it kind of could have played into a typical kind of blockbuster film in many regards, modern blockbusters, but it doesn't. I don't feel. The second half we'll get to, but yes, this film, it's just so investing. You've got constant, great narrative. You've got character development. You've got action, and just comedy as well. This is a hilarious film at times. Of course, you've got the scenes when Tom Cruise, plays, sports with his son, and the window gets smashed. All this stuff is just absolutely hilarious, and such a charm to it. And yes, these characters are defined so well. Yes, the performance of Justin Chatwin is not perfect, but I really like this character overall. Yes, and then of course they go on the run. They are the ones with the only car. Weirdly, of course, but yes, eventually they, and this is a spoilers review as I've said, in the comments, but they do eventually get their car taken, and then they go off road. Of course, I do have issues with the second half. We'll get to it now. There is definitely some flaws here. I think Robbie, is a character who yeah, he's kind of a rebel and stuff. You could say typical teenager in many respects. But yes, it's very very odd how he's kind of, and he does, there is a glimmer early on, where he kind of shouts to the army and stuff when they're passing by. But very very soon after that, he just wants to run off, in the middle of a kind of massive, battle here, fire going everywhere, explosions, and he wants to kind of just run in, and join the army and help, fight these machines. It's very very odd. Many people have said this. I do agree. It's very strange. I just think kind of out of character in terms of just how he was in the first half of the film. He wasn't. I'm not going to say weak, but he wasn't. Kind of someone who you'd think as a hero, and it's not. Yeah, it's just kind of a weird, turn of events there, and just the way it happens, Yeah, just the way he kind of runs off and, into his death, basically. It's very, very strange, but yes, he isn't in most of the rest of the film until the very end, which is, kind of a shame. I think it's definitely at its best for these three characters together, in the first half of the film. But yes, I think... it definitely has some flaws. Other than that, it does have some dips, especially when you get to Tim Robbins' character. This is a character who takes them in, and he's someone who basically gives them shelter, and that you soon learn that he's not. He's basically gone insane. Again, I think people criticise this. I do think it's a flaw. But however, I think there is a case that he could have been. Kind of like this before the events of this disaster, but just kind of because he's in the middle of nowhere. And yes, it's not as if he couldn't have been insane before this breakout, but it's very very weird. Of course, some people have said if it isn't the case, how has he gone so insane so quickly? Because this of course is just literally happened just now, and of course it's very I think the character is mental. It's all over the place. Very, very inconsistent character. There's one minute where he's kind of, he wanted to go out and kill them, and then, he's kind of scared and cowering. It's just, I know this can work, but it just doesn't work for me really too well. It is a really, really weird performance as well by Tim Robbins, who's great in The Shawshank Redemption, but not too much else, I don't feel. And this is such a bizarre character. The performance is very, very weird and inconsistent. Kind of hilarious, of course, and funny, but yeah, entertaining, but definitely doesn't really work. However, a lot of these scenes actually have some really great moments of tension and kind of emotional moments. With Rachel, I think Rachel is a great great character throughout the film, and yes, these moments, actually really really well done in their tension, and just a relationship between Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning throughout the film is just something else. And that is what the film focuses on so much, is the themes of family, and this relationship between Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning's characters, of Rachel. It's the film, the thing that really has the emotional core of the film. This is what really drives it so much, especially once Robbie goes away, and that's the kind of thing Tom Cruise is tasked, his character of Ray, to look after his children, and it's all about family kind of sticking together. Although yes, he does let his son go off and into his possible death. And he thinks he is dead for quite a while, of course, as we know, until the very very ending, which again is criticised. We'll get to that. But yes, this film, it's just really really warm. The heart of the film is so present. This is kind of typical Spielberg in the way he creates such a warm film, and really really charming, of course. Just very heartfelt, very very different, of course, to his previous alien invasion films of E.T. and Close Encounters. For me, much better films, of course, but yes, it's very very different. The aliens, of course, in them films, very very peaceful. They don't mean any harm. In this one, of course, they are set out to destroy Earth. And of course, yeah, the main thing that is similar is the themes of family that it explores. Although ends very differently to Close Encounters, of course. In the sense of family. But yes, definitely very, very different to them, but very similar in some ways as well. Kind of you have a kind of they're always present. Kind of Spielberg. Themes of family. So present here, and just so well done overall. And yes, I think the Tim Robbins character is a big flaw. In the second half, and overall it just doesn't have it doesn't live up to the first half in many ways consistently. It does have some flaws, some maybe slightly bland moments, here and there. And yes, the ending, I do really like the ending in terms of the way the characters, what it does here emotionally. But again, you've got this Morgan Freeman narration. Wasn't necessary, probably not at all. No, it wasn't necessary at all. And the stuff that he's saying, at the end, it's kind of I don't think it needed to be in the film. It's not a big flaw or anything, but did we really need to hear this, or just leave it? It adds to the sense of wonder, and you never even find out why the aliens, what they came for and stuff, why they wanted to destroy Earth. You didn't need to, and you didn't need this narration. It's kind of like a halfway, kind of compromise in many regards. It doesn't taint the film. It's just not needed really for me, and yeah, but I do think it's a really good ending in my opinion. In terms of emotionally, and just a really good scene, I feel, just to wrap up there. And yeah, I think that's massively criticised, the ending. So many endings of these films are criticised, but I don't think it's bad. And yeah, I think overall this is a great film. I think very emotional. The action is pretty much always great. You have some, of course, B-grade elements throughout some of the film, especially in the second half. Tim Robbins' character. I don't know what happened there. That's the worst part of the film, his character really, and what went on there. Although it does lead to some emotional moments. Just take their character out and that whole kind of thing there. Would have been much better. But I do think the kind of the way it culminates as well with the machines is very, very satisfying. Just visually, this film is stunning actually. On Blu-ray, just absolutely amazing. Check it out, of course. Great sound. The sound design, of course, throughout is just top notch, top of the class there, and just I think Spielberg really wonderfully directs this film mostly. Especially the first hour it is kind of top notch, great. Not a masterpiece, but something that's truly great. Some of the rest of the film after the first hour, maybe isn't quite great, but it's always to a standard really, in terms of just the way the film moves, the flow of it, the acting, of course, by Tom Cruise. Dakota Fanning is absolutely brilliant. She is great in this film. Really great performance here. And yeah, even Justin Chatwin, I think he's really good in the film, really. And yes, I think the main thing, is just these characters, that it focuses on, of course, to bring out this, and it is a sci-fi film, and it delivers, of course, in terms of the mystery, the wonder, throughout most of the film. It doesn't need the narration, and stuff, and kind of explanations there, which don't really explain anything. But yes, I think, because you can kind of piece things together anyway, and I think, the sense of wonder would have been, kind of even greater if it had been left out and stuff. And just some weird moments, of course, especially with Tim Robbins. But it's just a great adventure film, mostly, and I love the sense of, charm it has. And I think I'd have to give it a 92%. It has some flaws, which bring it down, from the kind of top end of the nines, because I think the rest of the film is absolutely stunning in my opinion. Very controversial review, but yeah, it's my review, of course. It's called Cine Arts, this channel, and that's just me. I think just my opinion. Of course, many would disagree, but it's my review, and that's my personal score. And of course, love to know what you think in the comments, because it's very controversial, this one. Although I do think there is a kind of cult following out there. I'm certainly behind this film. I think it's visually stunning. It's great performances mostly, apart from a couple. It has got some B-grade elements, but it adds to the kind of charm to the film. It's a great adventure, great action, of course, and the moments of tension are at times, masterful in my opinion. The way Spielberg kind of builds up the mystery as well, and kind of creates these characters, you know, that I cared for so much. You know, I was rooting for them throughout the entire film. When I first saw this, of course, I was always wondering if Robbie would come back, and as we know, he does. You know, it's quite unbelievable how he does come back. You know, even with all the tanks and stuff that came back, you know, on fire and stuff from that battle, but you know, he made it out. You know, very, very, you know, it's quite unbelievable. But yes, you know, I think the way he brings this together in the final act emotionally is great, and yeah, a few flaws, not too many at all. You know, not too many big ones. It's mainly just things that don't quite add up, and you know, things, you know, in terms of just a couple of the side characters not quite doing things, you know, that are kind of consistent. But yes, you know, for what it is, you know, a blockbuster film in this sense, it is great in my opinion. So enjoyable. I adore this film. You know, it's full of heart, full of wonder, of course, and just so enjoyable in pretty much every act. And it does have some slight lulls in the kind of last 45 minutes, but it's great stuff in my opinion. Such an underrated film, such an underrated Spielberg. On Blu-ray here, of course, and yes, not his most underrated. That would probably be Empire of the Sun, and then of course Temple of Doom as well. But this one gets a lot of hate, and I can understand, you know, how a lot of people just won't buy into the film. But you know, I think emotionally, spiritually, and all this kind of stuff, it's just great, and you know, it has got some weird moments, of course, but for me, it's a great action adventure film. Great sci-fi here, with some such unique concepts, of course, and the execution is mostly masterful. You know, with these machines, that's the thing that is just really something else. The effects are throughout the film is great, and yeah, it just has a great score as well, by John Williams, of course, once again. And yeah, this is just one of the films, you know, of this century that Spielberg's made, I do love. There are a few, of course. There's some that I'm not, you know, massive on, really, and you know, not that they've been bad, but you know, I think there's quite a few of these ones, you know, I've not taken to as much, and I will get to them, of course. And, you know, including you know, a couple of ones that are very popular. You know, one big one that's just extremely popular, of course. Well, not completely loved, but definitely critically, you know, of the 2010s, we'll get to that. But I do think he's producing, making some wonderful stuff still, and, you know, including Warhorse, we'll get to that. You know, I love that film, and yeah, I think Spielberg is my second favourite director, an absolute genius. This isn't one of his masterpieces, but it's a great film in my opinion, and yes, my personal opinion is it's great, and you have to check it out. So yes, thanks for watching my review.